Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations unto the 144,000. This is Brother Kyle here, back with another lesson to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Lord willing, it be edifying, to the point, and 100% truth. Because this video here that I'm about to play, well, the elder did a video on it, saw it in his thumbnail. I want to watch his video after as well, because I know his video will be very yappa, because when I watch this video here that I'm going to play for you all, this guy, well, he's a Yah Israelite, and we know how they dub, they all over the place, right? And with this video here, he's trying to prove that, the nation's going to be grafted in, basically. And funny enough, Sunday gone, right, because today is Monday, which was yesterday, we did a video, me and, the second in command, Brother Kahan, we did a video yesterday concerning salvation as only for Israel. And that video was very yappa, so coming now to deal with this video here, right, which will be from a different angle, because we already brought it out beautifully and there's many scriptures proving that salvation is for Israel, right? But we're going to debunk this here, because he also brought out scriptures, that could really be twisters, like, let me not say twisters, but more like, stumbling blocks, right, if you don't have the correct understanding of it, so I'm going to play it piece, and deal with it piece by piece, right? So without further ado, let's get into the video here.
Now, this message today is for all my YT people who are living in the truth and who accept the truth. I know there are a lot of camps out there who like to spread this hateful...
This might be obvious, but just in case, YT, you put that in replacement for white people, right?
doctrine saying the northern nations can be saved, but that is a complete lie. So all my YT people, if you experienced all those hateful groups out there, just know we are all not like that, because not all of us have pride and arrogance ever since we came into this truth. See, what you got to understand is that the biggest problem with my people is that we want to play a victim mentality. The reason why we go through all this stuff that we're going through while we're at the bottom, and why the Europeans are all the way up here and we're down here, is because if our ancestors did what they were supposed to do, which is follow the Most High and keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, we wouldn't be going through all this. It's the reason why the black man or African Americans, we're the number one highest in HIV cases. It's the reason why we're the number one highest in cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. It's the reason why we're the number one in our families that grow up without fathers. Yes, those things happen in other nations as well, but it's more common in the African American community. And that was all because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. And the thing is, they ruined it so bad for us good Hebrews out there, is because every time we tell people what we are, they start thinking, oh yeah, you're a Hebrew Israelite, or you're hateful, you're this and that. And a lot of them are just speaking through ignorance of something they have no idea, they have no knowledge of, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Much like what you're doing right now, because he's speaking from ignorance, pride, because you can see face expression, like, he have this nonchalant face expression, like, like, I know so much and I just, cool with it or whatever it is, but he's speaking from ignorance, right? Because where he do have a point, and that's something we also mentioned yesterday in the camp video, is that at some point, cheeks do have to take accountability for, why it is we in the mess, and the reason for it. Because let's get a precept. This book of Deuteronomy 28, right? This whole chapter is dedicated to the blessings and curses, right? So I'm going to read verse 1 as well as verse 15, right? Because verse 1 speaks about the blessings and verse 15 speaks about the curses going down, right? So it says, and it shall come to pass If thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy power will set thee on high above all nations on the earth. And this scripture as well, also cut what he's saying, because he's trying to say that the nation is going to be salvaged with us. In other words, if they salvage with us, that means they're going to be ruling equally with us, which don't make any sense. The Lord's going to set us above the nations. And furthermore, who was the laws, statutes, and commandments given to? Right? Let's bring it out, because he don't understand this part. This is the book of Psalms 147 and 19. It says, he sheweth his word, right? The whole entire Bible, right? This whole word unto Jacob, right? His statutes and his judgments unto Israel, right? He shows his laws, statutes, and commandments unto Jacob, unto Israel. And he goes on to say he had not dealt so with any nation. So you can't just bring another nation in just so and say, well, hey, they're going to be salvaged, right? Because it says, and for his judgment, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right? They don't know the judgments of the Lord, because meaning to say they haven't experienced it. Because you mentioned that we going through all these things, right? That within itself cuts what he's saying, because we as a nation going through all these things, right? So why it is we are the ones being punished, right? And as he rightfully said, we are the ones more commonly to be, tested for the HIV and all these different things. All these things happening to us, right? All these things happening to us. Yes, it happening to, some of the other nations or whatnot on a small scale, but on a much greater scale for us. Because why? We are the children of the Most High, right? So if we are the children of the Most High, then we are the ones that are being punished. Goes back to the video I did a couple of days ago. Chastisement. The Lord said if you don't chastise you, then you're a bastard. He's not his son. The Lord chastises his sons, right? So if it is we going through all what we going through and they're not going through anything, then how could it be possible for them to be salvaged with us? It doesn't make any sense. That's contradictory to the scriptures, right? So let's go back to Deuteronomy 28 and read verse 15. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, right? And we see all these curses going all the way down here, right? Because even it was 54, because I believe he mentioned something like this, right? It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, right? So that is why he would say, mention the hate or whatever it is towards the other nation. That much is natural when they come into this truth, because we know what the nations did unto us, right? But also, your eye being towards evil towards your brother is another curse. That is why we can't always just bond together and live peaceably among each other like how most of these other nations will. Of course they have their bickering as well, but you see, when it comes to the curses, it's on a higher scale when it's on us, because it is on us. I don't want to make it seem like if the other nations had the curses on them as well, but we know certain things will happen. Of course they will bicker amongst each other too as well, this and that, whoever it is, but for the most part, the curses is upon us. The curses is upon us and it's not on them, right? Because the Lord speak about when he comes back, he's going to put the curses on them. So that means they're not experiencing the curses right now. We are. He even said it to himself in the video. We are the bottom and they are the top. That is why I go back to verse 1, where he said the Lord gonna, if we obey him, he will set us above the nations, right? So thinking about it again, he also contradicts himself again, because He knows we are the bottom and they are the top, right? But yet still they're gonna come to rule equally with us when the Lord come to save us from our enemies, which is these nations. That don't make any sense. Why would the Lord come to salvage us from among the heathens and them, which is the other nations, then to make us rule together with them? And they're already ruling. How does that make any sense? You want to share a rulership with them? Come on, man. That's wickedness. That's abomination. The Lord said a false balance is an abomination unto him. You know? So that can't work. Right? This is Psalm 78. Right? Because let me see if I could go back to the video and let it replay what he said. Because I want to read this here. And this is a beautiful chapter. It really goes straight out from the top basically, but can't read from the top, so I'll just read a couple of verses here to get the essence and I'll expound. Right? So let's go to the video here.
Because in that, they ruined it so bad for us good Hebrews out there, is because every time we tell people what we are, see, what you gotta understand is that the biggest problem with my people is that we want to play a victim mentality. The reason why we go through all this stuff that we're going through while we're at the bottom and why the Europeans are all the way up here and we're down here is because if our ancestors did what they were supposed to do, which is follow the Most High and keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, we wouldn't be going through all this. It's a reason.
Right. So we already explained the first part, which is true. You know, if we did and we did hearken unto the Lord, we would have never been going through all these things. So that much is true. You know, we have to take accountability for that. You know, but this is also why I want to read this precept as well as another one, right, that proves this, right? So with this, it gives you all this basically going through the history of, you know, when we were in Egypt, right, and when the Lord freed us from Egypt. So I read Psalm 78 and from verse 50. It says, he made a way to his anger and spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, right? We know the Lord smite Egypt with plagues, right? Verse 51 says, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacles of Ham, but made his own people to go forth like sheep and guided them in the wilderness like a flock, right? So the Lord had us go through the wilderness after he freed us from Egypt, right? He guided us through. You know, how did he do that? By the chariot, right, or the pillar, which was a chariot, pillar of fire by night and the pillar of cloud by day, right? And not to mention, he gave us, you know, Moses, which is King David in the reincarnation, if he could receive it, you know, because he was he was and is the leader and the head of Israel, right, under Yahushua. So it goes on, and he led them on safely, so that they feared not, but the sea overwhelmed their enemies. So when we was going through the water now, right, we had nothing to fear because we know we see the miracles of Yahushua delivering us out, you know, out of captivity and destroying our enemies, right? So verse 54 says, and he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, even to this mountain which his right hand had purchased. He cast out the heathen also before them, and divided them an inheritance by line, and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents, right? So the Lord gave us everything. You know, he delivered us out of the captivity, you know, gave us heathens and whatnot, right? Gave us their tents and whatnot, you know, because remember when we were freed from Egypt, you know, we basically took some spoils from them, right? I can't remember exactly how the scripture says it, but yeah, we took spoils from them. So it goes on in verse 56. Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High, and kept not his testimonies, right? So after the Lord did all these things for us, you know, we still end up tempting the Lord and provoking him to anger, right? But turned back and dealt unfaithfully like their fathers, they would turn aside like a deceitful bow. For they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their graven images. And we know what they did. You know, they worship the golden calf and whatnot. right? So after the Lord did all that for us, as I said, we turned our back on him, right? Which caused him to put us back into captivity again because we didn't listen, right? When the Messiah heard this, he was wroth and greatly abhorred Israel, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, right? The tent which he placed among men, and delivered his strength into captivity and his glory into the enemy's hand. He gave his people over also unto the sword, and was wroth with his inheritance, right? Because remember, I think it's Deuteronomy 32 and 8, when it speaks about, Jacob being the lot of the Lord's inheritance, right? We are the Lord's portion. So the Lord delivered us back into captivity and delivered us up to the sword, which is, to be slaughtered and whatnot, because we disobeyed. So like the Lord took away his protection from us then, because he did all this for us, and then we still turn around and spit in his face. So he said, all right, cool, right? But bear in mind, the Lord did all of this, He said, and he was wroth, which is the past tense of wrath, right? So let me get this next precept here. This is Isaiah 47, and I'll start at verse 4. It says, as for our Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts, his name, the Holy One of Israel, not of the whole world or the nations, sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Right? The Lord talking to the Edomites. Right? These elites and them, he talking to them. Okay, remember in verse 1, where he said, come and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne. Right? A daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Right? So they're not going to be able to rise anymore. So to say that these nations, right, which he said the white people, which is the so-called white man, the Caucasians, the Edomites, for you to say that they're going to be accepted in the kingdom, the Lord said there's no throne. They're not going to be ruling anymore. 2nd Ezra 6 and 7 to verse 9, right, it tells you that what? Esau is the end of this world, which is the world goes into aeon in the Greek, which means age, which is our time period. So there's the end of this time period, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. It doesn't say that Jacob gonna enter into Esau's world and rule alongside him. It does not say that, right? Because in the same verse 7 that I mentioned, it talks about, it gives you the analogy back in Genesis 25 that Esau's heel was held by Jacob, which represents what? The pulling down of Esau's stronghold, pulling down his kingdom, right? We pulling down Esau's kingdom by doing this work. So by you trying to fit them in now to say they could rule side us is blasphemy, right? They disrespect the Lord on a different level, disrespect his people, and you think that the Lord gonna still show them mercy and salvage them? No. Right? The Lord, they are the devil. Right? They are the devil. And let me read this precept here quick to interject. Alright, let me get the one in Malachi first and then get the one in Romans 9. I read Malachi 1 and 2. It says, I have loved you, said the Lord, yet ye say, when hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Said the Lord, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for dragons of the wilderness. Right? See, the Lord said he loved Jacob and hate Esau. And if you want to say that it's Old Testament, we could get it in the New Testament as well. Because the New Testament is validated by the Old Testament. They speak one and the same. They don't contradict each other. Right? So this is Romans 9 and 13. It says, as it is written. Where is it written? In the same book of Malachi that we just read. Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Right? It even goes on to say, what shall we say then? Is the unrighteousness with the Most High? Yahweh forbid. For he said unto Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then it is not of him that will it, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High that showeth mercy. So it's not up to you what you feel or what you think. Because as I always give the analogy, if you were the director of a movie and you decided this guy to be the villain and this guy to be the hero, none of your cast can flip the script and say, well, hey, this guy's the villain, but let he be the hero too in the story now. Come, you know. Then who would be the villain? That would be a boring movie. Nobody would want to watch that, right? In this same chapter, the Lord say what? He of the same lump. Let me see if I can get it here. Right, verse 21. It says, had not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor, right? That lump to represent Isaac, right? Who brought forth Jacob and Esau, right? That one seed, right? One seed, right? That represent that lump, basically, one unto honor, one unto dishonor. That seed, right? That seed that bring forth Jacob, and the seed that bring forth Esau, right? Esau is the lineage, the line of dishonor, the vessel. Jacob is the one unto honor, right? So that same lump that one lump that represent Isaac, was able to bring forth two nations, which the angel told Rebecca what? She has two nations in her womb, two different people, right? And Isaac was the reincarnation of Yahushai, if you could believe that as well, right? But that's a topic for another time. But the whole point about it is, Yahushai was the one that created Esau and Jacob, one way or the other. In the beginning, when he created the nations and whatnot, which Esau was his super nation back then, he still created them, and then he created them again when he was Isaac, So this whole thing is very deep, right? But I'm not going to try to go all the way into that because I want to stick on this. This is let me go back to the Isaiah 47 because I haven't reached the point there with that yet. So it goes on in verse 6. It says, I was wroth with my people, I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou heavenly laid thy yoke, and thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Right? So the Lord said he was wroth with his people, just as we read in the Psalms, right? He polluted his inheritance and gave them into the hand, and they showed us no mercy, right? So yes, we went off and we did these things and we wasn't supposed to do it, right? And the Lord punished us for it by sending us into captivity, meaning to work for these heathens, hardcore labor and this and that, But what Esau did, right? He forwarded the afflictions, as the scriptures say. He showed us no mercy. He did all these atrocious things, feeding our children to crocodile, breaking the men and all these different things. These devils have to pay. Right? These devils have to pay. Okay, as he mentioned the other nations as well, what the Lord say in Joel 3. Right? Let me deal with Ham now. Let me see here. Yeah. This Joel 3 and 4, it says, Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? Right? Children of Ham. It said, and all the coasts of Palestine, will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, with the Grecians here as Edomites, right? That ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua had spoken it, right? So the Lord gonna recompense you. So the same things that you did unto us, we're gonna do it unto you. You think we're not gonna be doing it buck breaking and all these things, because that's disgusting, right? But for the most part, the same captivity, the hardcore slavery, gonna be 10 times worse, right? That's how we're gonna repay you. So to say that these nations gonna be salvaged is blasphemy, is bug out, right? I believe you could also get this account in Isaiah 34 as well. Yeah, verse 8. They say, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance. Why the Lord coming with vengeance for, if he coming to save these nations as well, right? It say, and the year of the recompenses for the controversy of Zion, right? The Lord coming to recompense, right, all these nations for all the shit that they did to us. So again, yes, we went off, but they took it to another level, that was not supposed to be. So the Lord say, hey, the Lord is the one that's supposed to punish us how he see fit, not because he put his people into your hands means that you could take advantage of what it is the Lord do. The Lord say, it's like the Lord punishing. It's like this. Think about it, right? You have a son, and you punish your child already because they did something, and you give them into the hands of somebody, like let me say a babysitter or something, and the babysitter heard about it, and they want to take it upon themselves, to go and beat the child more, right? Like, who gave you the right to do that? Who gave you the right to do that? That is not your responsibility. The punishment was already dealt, right? But here it is, you want to use the Most High, right? And dish out more punishment, more wicked, more cruel, and all these different things, But that is prophecy as well, because back in the book of Genesis, what did Esau, what did Esau said? Esau say when his father sleep, he was slew his brother Jacob, and it even goes on to say in the scriptures that he gonna pursue his brother with the sword, right? So the Lord say, hey, blood shall pursue thee, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Die by the scriptures say in Revelation 13 and 10. I'll read that. Revelation 13 and verse 10. It says what? He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So right? So that is it. So these heathens and them had us in captivity. So if they lead us into captivity, then they have to go in captivity. That is just it. That is what the scriptures say. You can't try to twist it and bend it anyhow and say, well, hey, these nations think they're going to get saved and blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't make sense. Y'all could keep loving the white man, right? Y'all could do that and see when it is his destruction. See when it is his destruction comes. If one, the Lord would salvage them, right? Because the Lord coming to deal with them, right? Read back Isaiah 47, right? Isaiah 34. Isaiah 63, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51. Ooh, plenty scriptures, right? Read those books, those chapters. Even in Revelation, we know there's a lot of judgment for Esau, Edom, and Revelation. The whole book of Obadiah dedicated to the Edomites and their destruction, right? So read that and then see if it is what you saying makes sense. But again, you could go ahead and believe that what you seeing or saying or reading or whatever it is means that these Edomites gonna get salvaged and saved and all these different things. See if it is they're gonna help you when that time come, when the Lord vengeance come. See if they're gonna protect you in their bunkers and all these different things, because you turn around and tell them you love them. These devils been breaking covenants from since day one. Right? The scripture says that about them. Right? They broke every single covenant. They don't want to. They don't even like you, right? They don't even like you, and you want to try to salvage them with you, bruh. Nigga, please. Hey, it is what it is. I want to make a part 2 to this because I doesn't like making my videos too long, right? But this is a very upper topic to go on because it's so easy to debunk, and I want to get to the part where he mentions, when he bring forth some scriptures actually, you know, using that to say, well, hey, this is the scriptures that means that they're going to get saved, and it doesn't matter if you're Israelite and blah blah blah, and he doesn't understand. So I think I finished out all the precepts that I was reading. Yeah. So yeah. So I had to come back here
And why?
and finish out because this video is about 6 minutes long, and I really didn't intend it for this video specifically to be this long, but I know it would have some length to it, but I'll split it in parts. So Lord willing, this part of this video was edifying, soothing to your spirit, reveal understanding to you. Twara Yabash Shai for allowing me to do so. Right. So till next time, till part 2, Shalom.